Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of TILLY, the interactive lupus link for you. This is a weekly episodic series brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of New England. I'm your host, Marissa Zeppieri. Some of you might know me as Lupus Chick. Today, I am so excited to bring on two guests this time for this episode of TILLY. We have Gracie Gilardi and also Dana Valetti. And they are two incredible younger women that have been diagnosed with lupus. They're going to share a little bit about their stories with us. We're going to talk a little bit about college life and what that is like living with a chronic illness, and also just some inspiration, some tips and advice from them for any of you that might be in the younger range of being diagnosed with lupus and trying to figure out how to navigate either teenage years, college years, early 20s. So I'm really looking forward to this episode. I want to thank you ladies both for being here with us today.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
So Grace, I think we're going to start with you. It would be great if you can just tell us how long you've had lupus, what your symptoms were like, and just sort of what the whole diagnosis process was like for you.
Sure. So I actually don't technically have lupus, but I have an autoimmune disease. And when I was diagnosed around when I was 12, they diagnosed me with mixed connective tissue disorder, and it kind of became a culmination of everything that I had. It related to the numbers and my blood cell counts and my arthritis and my Raynaud's syndrome, and overall just my body operating differently than everybody else. And I became connected to the Lupus Foundation of New England when I started to struggle with my autoimmune disease, because I have family members that have lupus and a family history of lupus. So it became a place for me to kind of connect to what could be my future, and it still possibly could be my future. My symptoms have always just been, it's different than others. Colds hit me like a truck, and a cold that would last other people 3 days lasts me 2 weeks at least. Especially being in college, I got sick 10 times more. I was almost always sick at school. And I think the main symptoms for me have just been the low immune system, as well as the mental health issues that can come along with it, and just feeling different as a kid. But yeah, that's kind of what my journey has been like. And I've gotten better as I've gotten older, but time still tells, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I think it's really important to actually talk about mixed connective tissue disease, because there are a lot of people, especially in the communities of Lupus Foundation of New England and in Lupus Chick, that is their diagnosis right now. And they don't know if in the future their tests might show positive for lupus, but a lot of the symptoms obviously overlap. So I'm curious, when did you sort of notice, like an age of when you noticed like something was not right, you weren't feeling well, and sort of what was your family like, or the support system around you like? So what was that time like for you?
Sure. So in around third grade, I was diagnosed with Raynaud's, and then as time went on, I would say sixth grade, seventh grade, when I was about 12 years old, my pediatrician recommended that I go see a specialist to check on things, because she recognized that my family had a history with autoimmune. And then that's when I started the process of being diagnosed with mixed connective tissue. It took a couple of years, but finally got to that. But my support system around me has always been absolutely amazing, especially with my mom's side, because they understand. Two of my mother's sister, my mother's cousin, and then my mom's mom all had lupus. So it's been a really great support system. And when I got to high school, I was finally really open to talking about it and sharing my stories with others. And I got a lot of support and encouraging messages about the bravery that can come along with talking about it, rather than feeling so isolated and different. So I've definitely had nothing but love come from people and my team around me.
Oh, I love hearing that. That's awesome. I think support obviously is a huge aspect of living well with chronic illness. And I think also when you're younger and you're around healthy peers, I think it's easy to sort of like isolate yourself and not want to discuss it or not seem like you're different from other people. But it's amazing when you are open and you are authentic and transparent, just the people that come around you and offer you encouragement and love. So, and I love that you have the family aspect. Obviously, it stinks that there's such a heavy lupus, obviously genetic component within your family, but I think it also, you were talking about mental health a little bit earlier. The mental health aspect of being around people that understand exactly what you're going through, I think helps you just get through a challenging time. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. I definitely have some more questions for you, Gracie. We're gonna pop over to Dana really quick. So I would love if you could share with us a little bit about your story, how you were diagnosed, kind of an age range, and what your journey has been like.
Okay, so my journey started this summer going into 8th grade. I went to a water park one day and I felt really sick. I thought I had like the stomach bug or something. So I came home and kind of was going through the motions, when you have a stomach bug, all that yucky stuff. And then it just kind of didn't get better. So a week went by, 2 weeks go by, and doctors are just kind of saying, oh, it's just a bug, it's just a virus, it'll pass. And then it didn't pass, obviously. And I ended up getting misdiagnosed with GI issues. So they were treating me for that for like 6 months. And a diagnosis did come at the end of that 6 months. But in the meantime of that, it was me going to the hospital because of repercussions from like being treated for something I didn't have. And doctors kind of just dismissing me, like, there's nothing else going on. This is right. You're just making it up, because I was, 13, 14. So that was like really frustrating for me because I was getting sicker and sicker, but the adults kind of weren't acknowledging that something was amiss. So then at the end of 6 months, I got my diagnosis for lupus and started treatment for that. And prednisone being my main form of treatment, my face blew up like to unrecognizable amounts. So that was probably the toughest part for me, being, you're in your coming of age years and suddenly you look like an entirely different person. And I was going to be starting high school soon. So that was kind of tough for me right in the beginning. Luckily, throughout high school, things were pretty mundane, not really any significant events and flares up until the end. I caught the flu, so I went into a pretty serious flare that affected, I had alopecia, pancreatitis, myositis, hepatitis, basically everything. All the organs were just, freaking out. I was in the hospital for altogether like 6 weeks. I had to take my second half of senior year of high school off, had to learn how to walk again, kind of the whole 9 yards. And since then, throughout college, it's kind of just been the up and down, trying to balance meds, balance life, dealing with the things that pop up here and there as they do. So yeah, for now, everything is calm, luckily, but it's, just the up and down every day, basically.
That is quite the journey, Dana. I appreciate you sharing that and being so transparent. I think it's really important for other young men and women your age. You're both around your 20s. I'll just say that. For them to hear your story. And you brought up a lot of interesting little snippets of things I want to talk to you both about and ask you. So first, I'm going to throw this out to both of you. But what is it like, or do you feel like sometimes being younger, if you've had an experience where maybe someone didn't take your symptoms seriously, and when that happens, like how would you suggest someone around your age, or just really anyone, to advocate for themselves. They might think, well, you're too young to have something like this, or we don't really think that it's maybe A, B, or C, or something serious. How would you inspire people, and what advice would you give them to advocate for themselves?
You can go, Gracie, if you have anything to say.
My really only advice would to be that you know your body better than anybody else does. And I don't think any doctor or family member or friend especially has any right to tell you what you don't feel. Because it changes from time to time. I've had flus where I had the flu this past winter. I didn't have one symptom whatsoever. And I had the flu 3 years back, and I was out of school for almost 2 weeks. It's just your body changes and your body reacts differently to different things. And if you have something that bothers you, nobody has the right to tell you that it can't. So I think the best thing is just having open and honest communication with doctors and families, and saying this is something we need to take care of, and making sure those measures are taken to fix that.
Absolutely. Dana?
So my biggest thing so far, obviously going through college is, enough of a challenge for a normal, healthy person. But it was huge for me, like Gracie said, to have really open, honest communication with the people in your life, like professors and staff and bosses at jobs. So when I would meet a new person in my life that had that kind of relationship with me, like I was expected to have timelines, like a professor or a boss, I would always be very upfront and say and explain that lupus is a very unpredictable illness. So there could be one day that I'm totally fine, and the next, couple days I'm totally not, and I can't predict it. And just kind of making a plan with people is really, really helpful. Obviously, you would hope that the people in your inner circle would understand that better, but definitely, like Gracie said, being very honest and open with people about your disease, explaining it, and explaining how it affects you personally can make it easier for them to kind of understand what they should be expecting from you.
Absolutely. And again, you touched on something that I think is really important if people that are watching are unaware. If you're in college, and you also touched on employment, it's better, at least I believe it's better, if you let your professors know ahead of time instead of waiting until you're actually like in a flare up or something. But having that conversation, having that dialogue in the beginning, letting them know that this is something that you're living with. And like you said, it's very unpredictable. Now, a lot of colleges, have disability services that you can extend timelines. You can get extra help if you need it. You can get accommodations, and those are available to you, and there are legal rights, and you have to speak up to get these things. And, it doesn't mean that you have to be necessarily treated differently or looked at differently, but it will help you, and those things are in place to help you if you're in school and you do have a flare and you miss some time. So I think that's really important that you shared that. And speaking of college, I want to touch on the mental health aspect. And also, Dana, you shared with us a little bit about how some of the lupus medications change your physical appearance. And that also ties into the mental health aspect, especially when you're a young woman, a young man, you're in high school, you're in college. We know what our society is like. Obviously, our first impression of people based on the exterior. So let's dig into that a little bit and tell us, as far as mental health aspects, what are some of the things that you've struggled with that you are open and able to share with us a little bit about, and how would you, or what type of advice would you give to other people your age that are struggling? Gracie, we can start with you on that.
Sure. My mental health with my chronic illness really became one of the forefront struggles from the start, because I felt immediately ostracized once I had that word disease labeled onto me. and I kind of isolated myself from others in middle school. Nobody knew about my disease besides my family members. And then I just felt different. I could remember sitting at a lunch table and just looking around and thinking, all these girls are healthy, and I just feel so different and not normal. And once I got to high school, I realized that that mindset really wasn't healthy for me anymore, because stress can be a huge trigger for flare-ups and lupus and autoimmune and anything in between. So I really took it to heart to make sure that I was focusing on my mental health as well. And I started to feel a lot better once I opened up about it, and once I really talked to people about it and let it be an open part of my life that I was ready to have honest conversations about. And it helped me for a while. And then the normal stress and things that come along with mental health just as a high schooler came along. So my senior year, I started to have really, really, really bad anxiety, and I started seeing a therapist for it finally, because it was just one of those things that was like, hey, this is another part of living with a chronic illness that you can't just let go, because it's something that could make things 10 times worse. And I struggled and struggled, and I kept my mental health really secret and really quiet until I got to college, and I realized that feeling better about my chronic illness, I felt better about it by talking about it and being open and honest about it. So that's what I started to do with my mental health, and I just started to be really open to having vulnerable conversations about it. And when I got to campus, I joined a mental health club called Active Minds, run through NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. And I became really passionate about it, and now I'm going to be the vice president of it for this year, which is really exciting. And it's been really great to be able to incorporate my mental health into my life and my chronic illness. And I think something that became really special to me was when my doctor, around my sophomore year of high school, I was just like struggling talking to her about it, and she said something to me that stuck with me. I was like, I'm not normal, I don't feel normal. And she said, everybody is fighting a similar fight to you and you don't realize it. There are so many more individuals fighting their own fight that you can recognize. So finally being able to see that and realize that everybody has their own journey helped me to realize that using my voice for my chronic illness and mental health could be really helpful to me. So yeah.
Thank you. No, you're absolutely right. And we want to congratulate you for your work with NAMI and just the vice presidency. And I love, seeing someone that is taking their own struggle and they're turning it into some form of health advocacy and using their story to help others. So congratulations on that. And Dana, I just want to pop over to you as far as the mental health aspect and some advice that you would give to people.
Okay, so I touched on it a little bit earlier. Medications can often affect, your physical appearance. So that definitely doesn't help when you have this inner battle going on with your disease and coping with, everything that comes with that mentally, but also something that we're not used to all the time is wearing your disease on your face with, the rash, the moon face from prednisone. And especially senior year of high school, I lost my hair after my really bad flare. So I actually entered college wearing a wig, which was kind of a huge hurdle for me. Most people didn't actually know. I wrote about it in an article, kind of like coming out to that, like, hey, everyone, this is actually plastic hair. You know me now, and, I'm open to talking about it, because I definitely felt like if I went to college bald, being an 18-year-old girl, I would get looks and people would assume I had cancer or I was dying or something was wrong. And it was definitely a huge hurdle for me to deal with, being a freshman in college and trying to navigate that whole world while trying to navigate recovery from my really bad flare, and just dealing with all of those things that come with that. My advice, I think, over the years has really strongly cemented in be you unashamedly, because the good people that will accept you with your, your faults and defects are the people that you want in your life anyway. So anyone that's going to judge you for, having a rash or having a puffy face or losing your hair or being tired all the time probably isn't someone you want in your life long term anyway. So, don't read into the haters, and you just got to keep the good people around in your community, and make sure to love the people around you, and, keep them close. And I think that's my advice.
That's perfect. And I couldn't agree with you more. I always tell people the ones that don't stick around, that's okay. They're just not your people.
Yep.
And then you'll find other people around your age or maybe a little bit older that understand exactly what you're going through and want to support and love and, give you just encouragement. So they're definitely out there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to segue a little bit here into who you are today. So we know that dealing with any kind of unexpected diagnosis or even just a trauma, it does have the ability to reshape us, to refine us, to mold us, and to solidify our character. So I'm curious, from years ago to today, what have you learned about yourself? In the positive light? Are you stronger? You felt like you have come out stronger? How has it refined your personality? Are you more outgoing? Are you more outspoken? I'd love to hear a little bit from both of you on that.
Yeah, I think, and I'm sure Dana might feel the same, I used to be really not ashamed of my disease, but I wanted to keep it quiet and I wanted it to be mine. But especially going to Washington, D.C. and advocating for lupus and funding, it made me realize that there's a lot of other people like me who don't have the ability and the power to use their voice and talk about things like this. And it made me really proud to own my disease almost and tell people about it. I came back from that trip and I started just telling people about lupus. I started wearing lupus t-shirts and bracelets to make sure people knew about it, because it was something I wanted to spread the word about more than ever. And I wanted people to know, even if I don't actually have lupus, there are so many people that do and struggle and can't use their own voice. So I think going through all of this really made me a louder, stronger, more confident, and just independent individual.
And Dana, I'm going to put that same question over to you real quick.
Okay. Well, I think everyone that has to fight a chronic illness definitely comes out stronger mentally, ready to tackle more challenges, because we have to basically deal with, life is hard enough as it is, and then you have this whole entire second life to deal with on top of it. So I think it's made me a harder worker, because I know that I will always be fighting that battle alongside whatever other battle I have to face in life. And I think the biggest impact to me personally is I think I'm more compassionate now. Like Gracie mentioned earlier, everyone is fighting their own battle. And I think that really didn't occur to me until, until the thick of lupus. And I was very, very sick. And I kind of realized that everyone has something going on that you don't know about. And, it could be anything. Everyone has their own battle. And so I think just being sensitive to the fact that other people have their struggles and you have yours, is really, really important, that you have no idea what's going on in everyone else's life. So I definitely think lupus has made me a more compassionate, understanding, and sensitive person to other people.
Well, you're both absolutely incredible young women, and I love the fact that we were able to interview both of you. Before we sign off, I want to just know a little bit about what life is like for Gracie and Dana right now, as far as like college. What did you study? What are you studying? What are your goals and dreams for the future?
I'm at Providence College. I'm going to be a sophomore, and I'm studying elementary education to be a teacher. Um, I have a lot of goals and a lot of plans. Hopefully, I'll be able to accomplish. Probably too many that I can fit into um, my lifetime, but I'm just praying that I can actually accomplish those and that this disease doesn't hold me back at all. And I'm sure I'm just not going to let it, because it's not something I'm willing to let get in the way. Um, but I hope to be teaching in a city or teach wherever life takes me, wherever I want to go. I would love to do a trip to Africa at some time to help set up a mathematics department at a school there. And I want to raise a family and raise compassionate, empathetic kids who know about lupus and know about the struggles of people who have it.
Well, that's amazing, Gracie. I have no doubt that you will accomplish all of those things. You're very inspirational, so thank you. And Dana, what about you?
So I'm 23. I graduated from the University of New Hampshire about a year ago with a major in communication and a minor in biomedical studies. So I'm hoping to enter the marketing fields in the healthcare worlds. Hopefully, incorporating some of the things that I've learned through being involved with the Lupus Foundation, and see where, the healthcare marketing industry can use me, and, I'll find my way eventually.
Absolutely. And I know that your own experience with obviously having medical issues, you're going to really understand how to communicate with people's audiences that are in that world. So I love that. I wish you both the best of luck. And I just want to give our audience the opportunity, if you have an Instagram or something and you want to share it, that they can follow you and be inspired. It'd be great if you can just give us the details.
Sure, my Instagram is Gracie Gilardi, GraciGilarde.
And mine is D Valletti, DVALLETTI. I'm always open to chat or message if anyone comes across my page and, just wants to slide in.
So thank you, ladies, both for sharing your Instagram and offering to be available for anyone that maybe has a question or just needs to reach out to someone and wants to talk to someone. I want to thank you both so much for being here. Incredible young women. I can't wait to just watch you and see all of the amazing things that you continue to do. So thank you for being on this episode of Tilly. And thank you to everyone that's watching. Stay tuned next week for our next episode. Again, Tilly's brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of New England. I'm your host, Marissa Zeppieri. It's been amazing to be here with you, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.